All right, let's say you're starting out as a freelance filmmaker. You have a nice little reel. People are starting to ask you to make videos for them. But how much do you charge? Let's talk about money. But we're not talking about money alone. I got my good friend with me, Mark.
Hey, what's up, Matti? How you doing?
How's it going?
Good, man. It's been a while.
So one of the last times I think I've hung out with you, insert flashback here.
I'm in the future, Matti.
Who thinks that Mark should start his own YouTube channel about filmmaking or something else?
I think it would be super fun.
Okay, so
I started one. I finally did it.
YouTube channel, new YouTube channel from Mark. You posted a few really good videos.
Thanks,
already.
Man.
I've been following along. Mark, if you don't know, he's a DP and a director. You've been working in the industry for like 5-6 years at least now?
I think I was counting in my last video. Actually, it's 9.
9 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark is one of the few people that I know in the YouTube space that's still very heavily in the industry. So if you want like industry insider knowledge tips, you should go follow Mark. When you're first starting out, figuring out how much to charge for your time, for your skills, for your filmmaking, it's really, really hard. To make it a little bit easier for us, I think we can think about the money and getting paid in 2 different ways. The first is a project-based rate, and the second is a day rate. A project-based rate is really simple. A person comes to you with a need to make a video, and you are in charge of the whole project from start to finish, and you need to figure out how much is each of those things gonna cost. How much is it gonna cost to direct, DP, sound? Do you need actors? Do you need to feed your crew? All of those things you need to figure out. And that's why project-based pay can be a little bit tricky, because you need to make sure you are covering all your bases, because if you miss a big area, for example, you didn't budget for an editor or editing days, you're gonna end up getting paid less per hour. So you really wanna make sure you got everything covered and there's no surprises. And also, I think Mark has a good point for this. So Mark, you had a good point about a contingency plan or contingency line item. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, because on your thing you have lines, and so it's a line item on your budget. And contingency is important because you never know what the project is going to throw at you. Actually, just this last week, I quoted a project for a client, and we're working on it. And partway through, I was like, I think I need an art director. But luckily, I had put contingency in, which is essentially just some money that's your oh crap money. Like if you ever
I need more money.
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to take some money out of my contingency and hire an art director, and I didn't have to worry about it affecting my day rate or the overall quality of the project.
So on top of all the other things that you've come up with, the editing, the directing, all those things that you've put into your project budget, also add a contingency line, just a little extra money, because you never know what's gonna happen. So essentially, project-based work, you're trying to figure out all of the different roles and how much that's gonna cost. Even if you're doing all of those roles, you still need to take them all into account and figure out one lump sum, how much is it gonna cost to make this video. And then we have day rate, which is, I think, a little bit more simple and a little bit easier to figure out. Basically, you're gonna get a day rate on an amount of money per day that you're on that project, on that film shoot. For example, as a DP, you might get paid $800 for that day of shooting, and then maybe you'll get a half day rate for travel days or edit days, but there's a day rate for every single day that you're on that project. And day rate is great because if the project goes on for a longer period of time, you keep getting paid more for every single extra day that you're working. Whereas with the project-based rate, if you didn't calculate properly and you end up having to do a lot more extra days, it's kind of gonna suck because that's out of your pocket. You're having to put in extra and you're gonna get paid less per hour on that project. Now there is the risk always that a production company says you're gonna get 5 days and then you only get 3 for whatever reason, and depending on your contracts. So you might miss out on some days, whereas with the project-based rate, you're always gonna get that whole amount of money. So that's something you have to think about. But also an interesting thing about day rate is that you can add in...
Sir, this is a no vlogging zone. There's no vlogging allowed here.
I didn't know.
You're gonna have to shut this down.
Oh man. Sometimes you can add your own camera gear to your day rate, so you kind of have your day rate and then you have a gear rental rate. Instead of the production company renting from somewhere else, they're gonna rent your camera. We're gonna use that camera for this film shoot, and you're gonna get extra money for that. So let's say your day rate for shooting it is $600, and then you bring on your EOS R, maybe not your EOS R, maybe a little bit better camera. You bring your C300, you're gonna get paid another $300 for that. So that's an interesting way to kind of pay off your gear and maybe make a little bit more money each day. But typically I find when you're starting out, you kind of end up doing a whole bunch of different roles and you're doing project-based rates. So you're charging for the whole production of the video, all of the different roles you're putting into this one package. And then as you kind of develop in your career, you start being hired for a specific purpose, whether it's director, DP, gaffer, audio engineer, whatever it is, and then you're gonna get a day rate for your work. But Mark has some great insight on this because he's been working in the industry for a while, so let's go ask him. Oh, I did also want to mention that $800 for a day of work can seem like an insane amount of money, and it is quite a bit of money, but you also have to take into account that you're not going to be filming every single day, so it has to kind of cover your off days also. So yeah, it's a lot of money for that day, but you need to spread that money out throughout the month, so it ends up being a little bit less. So Mark, you were on a shoot for like what, a month in Berlin, was it?
Yeah, I was there for all of January shooting in Berlin.
And were you on a project rate or a day rate?
I was actually on a day rate, which kind of turned into a project rate. So as a director, you get paid for every day of shooting, but we only had 3 days of shooting. But then I had to stay an extra week and a half to work on post-production. So it ends up being a bit of a project rate. But the nice thing is you make sure your director's rate is fairly good so that if there is a week or 2 weeks of post-production and some pre-production, kind of covers the whole thing.
So just like I said, the day rate might seem like a lot of money, but it needs to cover some of your other days also that you're not working, or in this case, Mark was kind of working, helping out with the project still, but he wasn't getting paid a day rate for those days. Just give them an idea. What are, like, you don't have to say your amount, but what are some like day rate ranges? What do you, maybe like people that are starting off, maybe that you start off, and then what does it like kind of go up into? Like what are the day rates?
So director of photography, are we talking Canadian or US money? What are we talking?
Let's go US.
Okay, US dollars. Usually when you're starting off as a DP and you're on smaller projects, it's about $1,200 a day for a DP. Maybe on the lower end, it's about $850. But then when you get up to a bigger commercial, when you start getting to higher end commercial jobs, it's starting to get around $3,000 a day. Some of the crazy, like, you know, there's 10 or 15 amazing DPs in the world who can charge like $10,000 a day, but that's them, that's not me.
That's like an absurd amount of money. That's a lot of money. I think when I first started out, I think my kind of cutoff was $500.
Yep.
That was like, I didn't do anything below $500 a day. But then I think the most I ever got for freelancing was like $3,000 for a half day. And man, I was so happy that day. Like that was like crazy money for me.
Yeah.
And you don't have to tell your rates, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, so give us some pointers on how do you figure out how much to charge? Because it's a really hard thing to figure out.
Yeah, so in the early days, I would, try to get the job. So I would kind of undercut my budget and the clients would hire me because it was really cheap. But then I found myself, up late at night, editing the photos or doing graphics, working on an edit. And I started thinking, man, I hate this. I don't think I'm getting paid enough.
Regret.
Yeah, it was big regret. So what I started doing is when I would quote the client, if it was a 10-day project, I would think, maybe 3 of these nights I'm gonna be up really late working. How much money would someone have to pay me for me to be okay to stay up till 2 or 3 a.m. working on my computer? So then I would start adding that budget in. I'll go, you know, in the early days, I was like, hey, if you paid me $200 and said stay up till midnight working on photos, I'd be like, I'm in. So I would start adding that in, and then you start understanding what you value your time for, and then that helps you. You want to think, how much do I value my time? How much money does someone have to pay me to take a day out of my life to work on this project? And that's different for every person.
Yeah, I think that's what makes this so hard, is that like there's an industry standard kind of, but then it's different for every person, because maybe you value time with your family way more than another person. They really like working, so they're willing to work for a little bit less and just work all the time, whereas the other person wants to just chill at home. So yeah, there's no really like hard fast rules. You kind of just have to figure it out for yourself.
But a good thing to do is to ask around, maybe see what your friends are charging, because you want to know what the industry going rate is. Because if a client asks you and you say $300, and then they go to the next guy and he says $800, they might wonder, why is this guy so much cheaper? Is he not as good? Is he not as confident? Or maybe they'll end up going with you, but meanwhile you could have made maybe $500 or $600. So it's good to ask around and know what kind of the industry standard is in your community.
Yeah, I think for me, when I started out, day rates were around $500, and then project-based rates were kind of in the $3,000 to $5,000. I found a lot for like a 3 to 5 minute. That was kind of what it fell into when I first started. But then when you get further in your career, your rates start going up. Like I said, I made $3,000 for a half day that one time. And even for weddings, I started, I think, for 800 euros or something was the first wedding I did. And then by the end of it, we were charging, you know, at one point $3,000. And then we're like, why not just charge $5,000? It was a really interesting thing that happened when we went to $5,000. We started to attract kind of better weddings or better clients that were really, really nice looking, and they were hiring us, paying us a lot of money because they really liked our style. So they weren't like the clients that are penny pinching, because they understood our work, they really liked it, and that's why they were willing to pay for it. Another interesting thing that happened with that whole wedding charging more was that then I was doing a little bit less work, but I was still getting paid the same amount because I was charging so much more. So that's also something to keep in mind. Anyways, as you can see, figuring out what to charge is really complicated, really hard, but basically I would figure out what the industry standard is and what works best for you, and then start kind of low, maybe a little bit less than you really want. And then as you're getting jobs and you're getting more and more work, and all of a sudden you're getting so much work that you're having to turn down work, you should be increasing your amounts for your project rates and for your day rates. That's at least how I did it, and I'm pretty sure that's how Mark did it also. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to figure out what to charge for your filmmaking, and make sure you are charging. Don't just keep doing free work, because you deserve to be paid for your time and your effort and your skills.